The sky over Manhattan was still dark when Lily Hammond heard the familiar screech of brakes outside her aging Bronx apartment building. She froze. It was 5:14 a.m., too late to be working, too early to be innocent. Her husband's Mercedes usually purred like a secret, but tonight it whined as if exhausted from running somewhere it shouldn't have been. Lily, 7 months pregnant and fighting the tightness in her chest, walked slowly to the window. Bradley stepped out of the car with his shirt half tucked and his tie missing, his hair messed in a way no board meeting could justify. She whispered to herself, "Please, not again." But the real blow came when she saw it, a small blue stuffed dinosaur sitting on the back seat. The same toy Bradley claimed he bought for our son, the one he never handed to her, the one she assumed he kept in his office. It wasn't just the toy, it was the faint shimmer of glitter on it. Lily didn't own anything with glitter. But Camila Rhodes, the event planner Bradley had insisted was just a colleague, wore glitter on every dress she posted online. Lily felt her knees weaken. Her hands pressed against her belly as the baby kicked, as if sensing her heartbreak. She walked to the door, just as Bradley stepped into the hallway, smelling of hotel soap and a floral perfume she didn't wear. "You're up early," he said casually, refusing to meet her eyes. "Where were you?" Her voice trembled. Not with anger, but with a familiar, exhausted fear. Bradley sighed, annoyed. "Lily, don't start. You're emotional. Pregnancy does that." Before she could respond, a voice echoed faintly from downstairs, a deep, steady voice she didn't recognize. "Mrs. Hammond? I think you dropped something by the car." Lily blinked. Someone else had seen, someone else had noticed, and what he was holding in his hand made Bradley's face turn white. The stuffed dinosaur wasn't alone. Something else was attached to it. Lily Hammond had always believed that marriage required patience, even sacrifice. Growing up in a small town outside Cleveland, she was raised to think that love was something you fought for, even when it bruised you. Her mother used to say, "A good wife holds the family together." But her mother never lived long enough to see the world Lily lived in, now a world where loyalty wasn't rewarded and kindness wasn't always returned. At 30 years old, Lily found herself balancing 12-hour shifts at New York Presbyterian Hospital while carrying a child whose father was drifting further away each day. She had moved to New York with dreams of stability, imagining late-night takeout dinners, warm living rooms, and a husband who would rub her back after a long shift. Instead, she shared a cramped studio apartment where every argument echoed off peeling paint, and every apology felt thinner than the walls around them. Bradley used to meet her at the hospital lobby with takeout from her favorite Thai place. Now he complained she was too tired to enjoy real dinners. He used to press his hand to her belly and whisper to the baby. Now he muttered about the cost of formula and daycare before the child was even born. The more her belly grew, the more excuses he found to stay out working late. Lily held on to hope longer than most women would. She told herself that stress changed people, that fatherhood scared some men. She tried harder, cooked more, cleaned more, and avoided bringing up the loneliness that swallowed her nights. But no matter how much she tried, Bradley's attention slipped further away, as though her growing belly overshadowed her worth. She wasn't blind. She saw the changes: new suits, pricier cologne, late-night showers the moment he returned home. But it wasn't until tonight, staring at the glitter on that stuffed dinosaur, that all the whispered suspicions solidified into something sharp enough to cut. The man downstairs who called to her, she had never seen him before. When she stepped out into the hallway, she found him standing under the dim ceiling light, holding the stuffed toy in one hand and a small metallic card in the other. He looked mid to late 30s, dressed in a charcoal coat that didn't belong in their rundown building. His presence felt out of place, like a polished puzzle piece dropped into the wrong box. "This was on the ground near your car," he said, offering the card. Bradley stepped forward too quickly. "We don't need help, thanks." Lily ignored her husband and took the card. It wasn't a credit card, it was a key card, sleek, black, embossed with the golden crest of the Plaza Hotel. She felt something inside her go cold. The stranger's gaze softened when he saw her expression. "I'm sorry if I overstepped. I just didn't want you to lose it." Bradley grabbed the card from her hand. "I said, we're good." The stranger held Bradley's eyes for a long moment, then looked back at Lily, offering a small, polite nod before he turned to leave. But Lily noticed something. He glanced at her belly, concern, not pity, crossing his face before he disappeared into the stairwell. Her heart pounded. The plaza, Bradley's smell, Camila's glitter, the toy meant for their baby. And the stranger? He clearly knew more than he said. And tomorrow morning, Lily would learn exactly who he was. The next morning, Lily moved through the tiny studio apartment like a ghost. She barely slept, replaying every second from the night before Bradley's messy appearance. The glitter on the toy, the black plaza keycard, and the stranger with the steady voice, who seemed to know more than he let on. The apartment felt colder than usual. The December wind leaked through the old window frame, brushing against her swollen feet as she stood barefoot in the kitchen, waiting for water to boil. Bradley acted like nothing had happened. He walked around in his crisp white shirt, humming while he tied his tie, annoyingly cheerful, as if the dawn didn't bring the truth home with him. "Don't forget you have your prenatal appointment today," he said, adjusting his cufflinks. "I didn't forget," she replied quietly. "You've been scattered lately," he added, a hint of irritation in his voice. "Maybe ease off the double shifts." Lily stared at him, stunned. "Bradley, I'm working extra because you said we needed to save money before the baby comes." He shrugged. "Well, maybe you misheard." He was turning her own efforts against her again. She placed a hand on her belly, trying to steady her breath. The baby moved gently, almost as if comforting her. "What about the keycard?" she asked finally. Bradley froze for a split second, just long enough to answer her question without words, before forcing a dismissive laugh. "Oh, that? A client gave it to me by mistake. There was an event at the plaza. And the toy? It fell from my office bag. You're overthinking." She wanted to believe him. She desperately wanted her world to make sense again, but the truth had already been planted inside her, like a splinter too deep to ignore. As Bradley prepared to leave, she followed him to the door. "Bradley, if you're hiding something from me, I need to know. For our family." He didn't look at her when he replied, "You need to calm down, Lily. You always jump to the worst conclusions. Always." That word stung. She had never accused him without reason. She had always trusted first, questioned second. But now, she felt like she was drowning in doubts while he stood safely on the shore. Bradley left with a quick kiss on her forehead, one that felt more like a gesture of obligation than affection. The door clicked behind him, leaving the apartment ringing with silence. Lily sank onto the worn-out couch, rubbing her temples. She knew she couldn't keep pretending. Not after last night. She grabbed her coat and stepped outside, determined to clear her mind before her appointment. The winter air hit her cheeks sharply. She wrapped her scarf tighter and walked toward the subway station, her steps slow but steady. She passed the building lobby and froze. The stranger from last night was there. He was speaking to the building superintendent, his hands tucked in his coat pockets. He looked out of place again, polished, calm, observant, almost like he didn't belong in this neighborhood at all. As if sensing her presence, he turned and met her eyes. For a moment, his expression softened in recognition. "Mrs. Hammond," he said, walking toward her. "I was hoping to run into you." Her heart skipped. Nobody hoped to run into people in this building, unless they had a reason. "Why?" she asked, her voice tight. He paused, choosing his words with care. "Because there's something you need to know about your husband, something you shouldn't hear from him. And it starts with what happened last night." Lily's breath fogged in the cold air as she stood in the lobby facing the stranger. She didn't know his name, yet something about his calm voice steadied the chaos inside her. But fear worked quickly to smother that comfort. Her hands tightened around the strap of her bag. "What do you mean something I shouldn't hear from him?" The man glanced at the superintendent, who lingered nearby, pretending to sort mail. Then he looked back at Lily with a reassuring nod. "Let's talk outside," he suggested. "Someplace quiet." She hesitated. Every instinct told her to turn around, to flee, to protect herself. But another instinct, one that whispered of truth and danger, compelled her to follow. They stepped onto the sidewalk. Snow from the night before crunched beneath her boots. "My name is Ethan," he said finally. "Ethan Calloway." The name struck her unexpectedly. She'd heard it before on news segments, in articles Bradley forwarded to himself, in conversations he dropped like trophies. Ethan Calloway was the founder of Calloway Innovations, one of the biggest tech competitors in the city. She blinked. "You? You're him?" "Guilty," he said softly, "though I'm not here in any official capacity." 2020. Lily felt her pulse quicken. Why would someone like you know anything about my husband? Ethan studied her face for a moment, then looked down the street as if choosing where to begin. I own this building. I review property issues weekly. Yesterday, the night shift concierge logged a complaint about loud music in the parking garage. He paused. Security checked the cameras. Lily's stomach twisted. She didn't want to hear this, but she needed to. There was a woman with your husband, Ethan continued. They were in his car for over an hour. I didn't know who he was until I saw him come upstairs this morning. The cold air suddenly felt suffocating. Lily gripped her coat tighter, partly for warmth, partly to keep herself from collapsing. You're sure it was him? Yes, Ethan said firmly. And the woman, she placed the toy in the car herself. Lily had suspected it. But hearing it confirmed sent a hot sting behind her eyes. She turned away, wiping quickly. She didn't want a stranger, especially one like him, to see her break. I'm sorry, Ethan said, his voice steady, respectful. I shouldn't have said anything, but it didn't seem right to let you walk around believing his lies. His sincerity disarmed her. There was no judgment, no pity, only truth. I appreciate it, she whispered. But appreciation didn't soothe the pain clawing at her chest. She felt betrayed, humiliated, foolish for trusting so blindly. Her baby shifted inside her, reminding her that she wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She walked away, but Ethan followed her with his eyes, something unreadable flickering in them. At her appointment later that morning, Lily sat alone in the waiting room, trying to focus on the rhythmic ticking of the clock instead of the truth echoing in her mind. When the doctor finally examined her, the verdict wasn't comforting. Your stress levels are too high, Dr. Kaplan warned. You need rest, real rest. Any emotional strain could risk preterm labor. Lily nodded numbly. Rest, as if rest was something she could negotiate. By the time she stepped back onto the street, the world felt heavier. She wrapped her coat around her belly, preparing to walk home. Then her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. It contained one line. Your husband is not at work today. A second message followed, this time with a photo. A photo taken inside a hotel suite. A photo of Bradley. And he wasn't alone. The cold wind whipped against Lily's cheeks as she stood frozen on the sidewalk, staring at the photo on her phone. It was clearer than any confession Bradley could ever deny. His shirt undone, a glass of champagne in hand, leaning over Camila Rhodes in a hotel suite lit by warm golden lamps. Camila was wrapped in one of those white robes, the plaza provided to VIP guests, laughing at something he whispered against her neck. Lily couldn't breathe. For a moment, she wasn't sure if she was standing or falling. The baby shifted inside her, grounding her in the most painful way possible. She looked around, trying to find a bench, a wall, anything to hold on to. Her legs felt hollow, her vision blurred. She forced herself to inhale deeply, then again, she needed to stay upright. For the baby, her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He booked the suite for the next 2 nights. Lily swallowed hard. The humiliation stung more than the betrayal itself. Bradley wasn't just cheating, he was comfortable, relaxed, settled into a life she didn't belong to. As though she had become a burden he could shed like an old coat. Pulling her scarf tighter, she began walking toward the subway station, her steps slow and uneven. She didn't notice how people looked at her pregnant, shaking, clearly distraught. The city didn't stop for broken hearts. When she finally reached the platform, she grabbed a support pillar and leaned against it. A tear slipped down her cheek. She hated crying in public, but she couldn't hold it anymore. A voice interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Are you okay? She turned. Ethan Calloway stood a few feet away, his expression unreadable but concerned. He wore the same charcoal coat, but now the morning light caught the sharp lines of his face, making him look even more out of place in the gritty underground station. What are you doing here? She whispered. I saw you leaving the clinic, he said simply. You didn't look well. I wanted to make sure you got home safely. Her chest tightened. You followed me? Not in a creepy way, he added gently, in a worried way. For some reason, that softened her. Lily looked down, tears dripping onto her coat. She didn't want to fall apart in front of a stranger, but the weight of everything pressed harder, suffocating. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice. Did something happen? She didn't answer. Instead, she handed him the phone. He looked at the photo for a long moment, His jaw clenched just barely, but enough for her to see he was angry on her behalf. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "No one deserves that." Lily wiped her face with her sleeve. "He lied to me. Last night, this morning, he looked me in the eyes and lied." "Men who lie that easily don't stop," Ethan said quietly. Another wave of nausea rolled through her. She grabbed the pillar again, struggling to stay steady. "Hey," he said quickly, stepping forward. "Sit down before you faint." He guided her to a nearby bench, keeping one hand close in case she stumbled. She sank down, breathing unevenly. Her stomach tightened, a pressure she didn't like. Ethan crouched in front of her. "Do you want me to take you home? Or to the hospital?" Lily opened her mouth to answer, but she winced instead, her hand flying to her belly. A sharp pain pulsed below her ribs. "Lily?" Ethan's voice sharpened. "What is it?" She tried to speak, but another cramp tightened through her abdomen, stronger this time. I don't know." Ethan's eyes widened. The pain wasn't normal, and it wasn't stopping. The first cramp had frightened Lily, but the second one stole her breath. She gripped the edge of the subway bench as the pain rippled through her abdomen, sharp and deep. Her lungs fought for air. Sweat broke across her forehead despite the cold December draft sweeping through the station. "Lily, look at me." Ethan's voice was steady, calm, but firm. "How long has this been happening?" She shook her head, wincing. "It just started. I don't know. It hurts." "Okay." He rose instantly. "We're going to the hospital." "No," she gasped, panic flooding her. I don't want to make it worse. Maybe it's just from stress. I just need to breathe." "Stress doesn't cause this kind of pain," Ethan replied, already pulling out his phone. "You're 7 months pregnant. I'm not leaving you here." A third cramp tightened around her belly like a fist. She doubled forward, a soft cry slipping out. Her vision blurred around the edges. People passed by without stopping New York, at its most indifferent. Ethan knelt beside her again, his hand hovering near her shoulder. He didn't touch her, but the gesture was grounding. "Lily, you're not safe here. You need a doctor." Her heart hammered painfully. She thought of Bradley, how he would shrug this off, how he would say she was being dramatic, how he had left her to face everything alone. Tears gathered in her eyes again, unwanted and humiliating. "It's just been a really bad day," she whispered. "I'll be fine." "No," he said softly, "you won't, and you don't have to pretend in front of me." Something about his tone, gentle but unyielding, broke the last thread of her resistance. She nodded weakly. Ethan stood, offering his hand for balance. Lily took it, not even thinking about what it meant. His grip was warm, steadying. With his support, she rose slowly, breathing through another wave of pain. "I have a car waiting nearby," he said. "We'll get you there faster than an ambulance." She didn't argue. Couldn't. He guided her toward the exit, keeping close without crowding her. Every few steps she stiffened, and he stopped each time, waiting patiently, letting her dictate the pace. The world around them blurred, screeching trains, rushing commuters, the metallic echo of the station. Everything shrank to the rhythm of her breathing and the pressure gripping her abdomen. When they finally reached the street, a black SUV idled by the curb. The driver stepped out immediately when he recognized Ethan. Without question, he opened the back door and helped Lily inside. Ethan slid in beside her, New York Presbyterian. Now, the SUV pulled into traffic. Lily pressed her palms against her belly, trying to soothe the tightening muscles. She could feel the baby moving, frantic, restless. Her throat tightened. "Is something happening to him?" she whispered. Ethan shook his head, but his eyes held concern. "We're getting you help in time. Focus on breathing. In through your nose, out through your mouth." Lily tried, but a trembling sob escaped. "Bradley won't even pick up if I call. He wouldn't come." "Then don't call him," Ethan said quietly. "Call someone who cares." She stared at him, confused. "I don't have anyone else." The car hit a bump, and another cramp seized her, harder than the rest. She cried out, grabbing the leather seat. Ethan leaned forward urgently. "Driver, hurry." He turned back to her. "Lily, stay with me. Look at me." She lifted her tear-filled eyes to his, trying to focus on his steady gaze. The SUV swerved around a corner, hospital lights coming into view. Another pain tore through her. This one felt different. Lower, heavier. And suddenly, Lily felt something wet spreading beneath her. The moment Lily felt the warm wetness spread under her, panic cracked through her like lightning. Her hands trembled as she lifted them slightly, staring at the reddish stains seeping across her coat. "No, no, no." Her voice broke into a terrified whisper. Ethan reacted instantly. "Lily, look at me. Stay awake. We're almost there." The driver swerved hard into the hospital entrance. Tires screeched. The car jolted to a stop. Ethan was out the door before the wheels settled. He rushed to her side, helped her out carefully, supporting most of her weight as she clung to him. The cold air hit her legs like needles, and another cramp tore through her, so sharp she doubled forward and cried out. Inside the emergency entrance, nurses scrambled as soon as Ethan shouted, "Pregnant woman, heavy bleeding." His voice carried authority, firm, commanding. People moved. A wheelchair appeared almost instantly. Lily collapsed into it, gripping the armrests so hard her knuckles went white. "Ma'am, how far along are you?" a nurse asked. 7 months, Lily gasped. They rushed her through the hallway, fluorescent lights flashing overhead. She could barely keep her eyes open. She heard the nurses murmuring to each other, words like preterm labor, possible placental abruption, and fetal distress. Words no mother wanted to hear, especially alone. Ethan kept pace beside the wheelchair, refusing to fall behind. "You're not alone, Lily. I'm right here." Her voice shook. I'm scared." "I know," he said quietly, "but I'm not leaving." They whole. "If you cancers of seas of the process, do seas." They burst into a room where 2 doctors immediately took over, helping Lily onto the bed, attaching monitors to her belly and arms. A fetal heart monitor crackled to life, filling the room with a rapid rhythm, too rapid. Her heart clenched. "Is he okay? Is my baby okay?" Dr. Patel, a woman with warm eyes and a sharp tone, adjusted the monitor and spoke quickly. "His heart rate is high. We need to stabilize you. Try to breathe. Andersa. If you come in days, no, tubation." The phrase repeated again, "try to breathe," but every breath hurt. Fear consumed her. She felt it everywhere, under her ribs, in her throat, in her bones. "Do we call the father?" another nurse asked. At that, Lily's throat closed. She pictured Bradley in the plaza suite, wrapped in soft hotel light, laughing, drinking, living a life that had no room for her or the baby struggling inside her right now. Ethan answered before Lily could. "No, call no one, except who she asks." "It's, oh." The nurse hesitated but nodded. Ethan stepped closer, his voice gentler when he turned to her. "Do you want me to call anyone?" Tears streamed down Lily's temples as another contraction wrapped its claws into her stomach. "I don't have anyone." Ethan's face tightened, as if something about that truth physically hurt him. Machines beeped faster. Nurses rushed in and out. The room blurred in Lily's fading vision. Her breaths grew quicker, more shallow. Her fingertips tingled. "Her BP is dropping," someone said. "Prepare magnesium," another ordered. Lily tried to stay awake, but her body felt too heavy, too cold. A doctor leaned over her, forcing her to focus. "Lily, stay with us. Your baby needs you awake." In the haze, she grasped Ethan's sleeve. "Will he be okay?" Ethan didn't answer right away. His jaw clenched, and for the first time since she met him, she saw real fear in his eyes. "He will," he whispered, "but you have to fight, Lily. It's little Stan's take." Another contraction hit, violent, consuming. Lily cried out, her body arching in pain as alarms blared. A nurse yelled, "She's dilating too fast." Dr. Patel cursed under her breath. "We may not be able to stop the labor, prep the ore." Lily's world spun. Ethan leaned close, gripping her hand. "Don't close your eyes," he pleaded. But the darkness was pulling her down fast. And the last thing she heard before everything faded was a nurse shouting, "We're losing her blood pressure, move now. And we'll seen dodo to Wandav and coverdo." The world returned in fragments, light, cold air, muffled voices, and the faint, rhythmic beeping of a monitor beside her. Lily blinked slowly, her eyelids heavy as if weighed down by sand. Everything was blurry at first, shapes melting into each other, colors smearing like wet paint. Then a voice cut through the haze, steady and familiar. "Lily? Can you hear me?" "Ethan." Her breath caught. She tried to speak, but her throat burned as though she'd swallowed smoke. A soft groan escaped instead. "You're okay," Ethan said gently, leaning forward so she could see him clearly. "You're safe. Safe? The word felt foreign. She glanced down, instinctively searching for her belly, but her stomach was flat beneath the hospital blankets. Too flat. Her eyes widened. Panic shot through her, sharp and immediate. "My baby where?" "Easy," Ethan said, placing a steadying hand near her arm without touching her. "He's alive. He came early, but he's breathing on his own now. He's in the NICU. The doctors are monitoring him closely." Lily's chest trembled with relief and fear all at once. A fragile breath left her lips. I want to see him." "You will," Ethan promised. "They just need you stable first." A nurse entered then, checking Lily's vitals. She explained the situation more carefully. A partial placental abruption, severe dehydration, dangerously elevated stress hormones. The medical jargon blurred into one phrase that echoed in Lily's mind. "You could have lost your baby." She closed her eyes, a tear slipping down her temple. Her hand instinctively reached toward her abdomen, again empty, cold, strange. After the nurse left, Lily whispered, "Bradley, does he know?" Ethan's jaw tightened in a way she had never seen before. "No. He wasn't listed as your emergency contact." "Is it?" "But he's my husband." "Lily," Ethan said quietly, "he didn't answer your calls earlier. And even if he had, he wasn't exactly in a place where he could show up here." Her stomach twisted not from pain, but from shame. The suite, the robe, the champagne. "He didn't even check on me," she whispered. Ethan hesitated before speaking, as if weighing whether she was strong enough to hear the next truth. "There's something else you should know," he said. "You fainted in the car. The doctor said your heart rate had spiked dangerously. If we'd been even 5 minutes later—" His voice trailed off, but she understood. 5 minutes. That was the margin between life and death for her and her child. She swallowed, throat aching. "Thank you for not leaving me." For a moment, he didn't respond. His eyes softened, and he took a slow breath. "I wasn't about to let anything happen to you." Silence settled between them, heavy but strangely warm. Lily felt herself drifting again, exhausted. But then another thought surfaced, sharp enough to jolt her awake. How did you know my name?" "Before today." In the lobby. Ethan froze. His expression changed, not guilt, but conflict. As if he'd been waiting for this question and dreading it. "I recognized you," he said finally. "Not at first, but later." "Recognized me?" she repeated, confused. He nodded slowly. "Your husband? Bradley Hammond." He paused. "We've crossed paths before, more than once." Something cold slid down Lily's spine. "What do you mean?" Ethan exhaled, the truth heavy on his tongue. "Bradley isn't just a man who cheats," he said quietly. "He's a man who destroys everything he touches." Lily's pulse quickened. "Destroys? What?" Ethan met her eyes, steady, serious. "Careers, partnerships, people. And he tried to destroy mine once." She stared at him, breath trembling. "What did Bradley do to you?" Ethan leaned closer, lowering his voice to a near whisper. "He stole something from me. And it's time you knew what it was." For a long moment, Lily simply lay there, staring at Ethan, her heart thudding unevenly beneath the thin hospital gown. She had expected many things: anger, disappointment, a vague warning. But not this. Not a sentence laced with history and danger. Her voice wavered. "What? What did Bradley steal from you?" Ethan leaned back in the chair beside her bed, his expression tightening the way people look when they return to a memory they'd buried on purpose. "Years ago," he began slowly, "I wasn't who I am now. I was building my company from scratch. Small office, tiny staff. Bradley was one of my early sales reps. Charismatic, ambitious, someone who wanted success faster than it could be earned." Lily's breath caught. She knew that version of Bradley all too well. Ethan continued. "I trusted him, gave him access to our client proposals, and he took everything, our presentations, pricing models, even confidential product data. He sold all of it to a competitor." His jaw clenched briefly. "I found out when I walked into a meeting and watched another company pitch my work as their own." Lily's fingers tightened around the blanket. "He didn't even deny it?" she whispered. "Oh, he denied it," Ethan said with a cold laugh. "He told the board I was unstable, overwhelmed, unfit to lead. He tried to paint me as paranoid. He knew how to twist a narrative even back then." Ethan's fists flexed slightly. I nearly lost my company because of him. Lily felt her chest ache with shame, though she knew the sin wasn't hers. I didn't know, she murmured. You wouldn't, Ethan replied gently. Men like Bradley hide their worst parts from the people they think won't look too closely. Her eyes stung. That was exactly what she had been: blind, hopeful, desperate to see the good, even when it was fading. Ethan studied her for a moment before continuing quietly. The night I saw him with that woman, it wasn't the first time he acted like nothing would ever catch up to him. A tear slid down Lily's cheek. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because it wasn't my place, he said, voice softening. But now, after everything, you deserve to know who he really is. Lily pressed her hand to her forehead. He doesn't just lie, he destroys. And her voice broke. I built my entire life around him. Ethan didn't move closer, but his voice wrapped around her like steady hands. That's not your fault. She wiped her eyes, her body trembling with exhaustion and anger. He's still in that suite, isn't he? She whispered bitterly, laughing, drinking, acting like nothing happened. Ethan hesitated. Yes, he said softly. The words sliced through her. She turned her face away, staring at the wall, fighting the weight of heartbreak that threatened to pull her under again. She felt hollow, used, disposable, the way Bradley had always made her feel when she wasn't perfect enough for his standards. Then Ethan spoke again, quieter this time. Lily, there's something else. Something I didn't want to tell you today. Her stomach twisted. What now? Ethan exhaled slowly, as though bracing her. Bradley wasn't just cheating on you with Camila. She wasn't the only woman. Lily's heart dropped. Not the only? She whispered, stunned. Ethan nodded grimly. There's another name, someone you actually know. Her mouth went dry. Who? Ethan's eyes held hers, steady but heavy with truth. Someone who's been in your home, in Windhausenis. For several seconds, Lily couldn't speak. Her mind kept looping Ethan's final sentence, like a broken recording. Someone who's been in your home. The words hit harder than any betrayal she had imagined. It felt impossible, too cruel, even for Bradley. But the look on Ethan's face told her he wasn't exaggerating. This wasn't speculation, this was truth. Who? Lily finally breathed, her voice barely more than a trembling whisper. Ethan hesitated, his jaw flexing. Think about the people Bradley insisted on keeping close. People he claimed you were too sensitive about. People he defended even when you brought up concerns. Her throat tightened. A few names flashed through her mind, but one stuck like a thorn. No, she muttered, shaking her head. She wouldn't. Ethan watched her carefully. Say the name. Lily closed her eyes, fighting the burn behind them. Marissa, Bradley's assistant. 28 years old, always polished, always too eager to help. She'd been in their apartment more times than Lily wanted to admit, dropping off contracts, staying late for emergency calls, organizing Bradley's schedule like she was more than just an employee. Every time Lily mentioned how strange it felt, Bradley dismissed her with the same line. She's part of my team. Don't make everything personal. End quote. But now everything clicked together like shards of glass, forming a picture she didn't want to see. Ethan nodded once. Slowly. Yes, Marissa. Lily's stomach twisted in revulsion. How long? Longer than Camila, he replied softly. Maybe a year, maybe more. From what I overheard during meetings, she wasn't just someone he cheated with. She was part of his strategy. She covered for him. She created alibis. She even lied to your hospital once when he didn't want you calling during a meeting. Lily's blood ran cold. She remembered that day. She had called Bradley from the employee lounge because she was spotting lightly and scared. Marissa was the one who answered, saying Bradley was in the middle of an investor presentation. But Bradley later told her he'd never gotten a call. He blamed her for not dialing the right number. Her heart cracked open again, raw and bleeding. How can someone do that to a pregnant woman? She whispered, voice breaking. Ethan's gaze softened. Because someone like Bradley attracts people who want power, not connection. And you? He paused, swallowing. You're the one thing he couldn't control. That stunned her. She felt anything but powerful. Why are you telling me all this? She asked, her voice shaking. You're not my family. You're not even a friend. Ethan didn't flinch. Because I've seen people like him destroy good people and get away with it. I won't let him do that to you. Something warm flickered in her chest, unexpected, bewildering, but real. Before she could respond, the door opened and Dr. Patel entered with a clipboard. "You're stabilizing," she said gently. "Your son is doing as well as can be expected for an early delivery, but you need to avoid all stress. No confrontations, no emotional triggers." Lily nodded, wiping her cheeks. "Okay, bye." The doctor glanced between Lily and Ethan. "You have someone to support you?" For the first time, Lily didn't say no. She looked at Ethan, tall, composed, unexpectedly steady. "Yes," she whispered, "I do." But the fragile moment shattered when Dr. Patel added carefully, "Your husband called the hospital." Lily's stomach dropped. Ethan's expression darkened. Dr. Patel continued, "He's on his way up." Lily's pulse spiked. "Now?" she breathed. "Yes," the doctor confirmed. "He said he wants to discuss the situation." "How, Ide?" Ethan took one step closer to Lily's bed, eyes sharpening like steel. And that was the moment Bradley Hammond walked through the door. Bradley Hammond entered the room with the confidence of a man who believed the world still bent around him. His expensive cologne arrived before he did, seeping into the sterile hospital air. He closed the door behind him as if he were stepping into a boardroom, not a room where his wife had nearly died giving birth to their child. He scanned the room. His gaze paused when he saw Ethan standing beside Lily's bed. Something flickered behind his eyes, annoyance, then recognition, then something darker. "What the hell is he doing here?" Bradley snapped. Lily flinched at his tone. Ethan didn't move. "I was with her when she collapsed. I brought her here." Bradley scoffed. "Right. And I'm supposed to believe that?" He turned to Lily, forcing a smile that didn't match the hardness in his eyes. "Honey, you look pale. You should have called me." Lily stared at him, numb. "I did," she whispered. "You didn't answer." Bradley waved a dismissive hand. "Meetings, Lily. You know how it is." She felt something twist sharply in her chest, not pain this time, but disgust. "You were at the plaza," she said quietly. The air shifted. Bradley's smile froze. "What?" "You heard me," Lily whispered. "I know." Bradley's jaw clenched, then he forced a laugh. "You're being dramatic again. Pregnancy hormones. Remember? You always jump to." "Stop talking to her like that." Ethan's voice sliced through the room. Both Lily and Bradley looked at him, Lily startled, Bradley enraged. "You don't get to tell me how to talk to my wife," Bradley growled. Ethan stepped forward just enough to make a point. "Then start acting like a husband, instead of a man who abandons his pregnant wife in a subway station, bleeding out." Bradley's face went red. "This is none of your business." "It became my business," Ethan said evenly, "when she nearly died in my car." Lily shut her eyes, Ethan's words hitting her with a painful truth she hadn't allowed herself to feel yet. She had nearly died, and Bradley wasn't there. "Lily," Bradley continued, softening his tone into the manipulative warmth she knew too well. "He's filling your head with nonsense. I'm here now. Let's just reset. Start over. We can fix this." Lily opened her eyes, her voice trembling but sharper than before. "Fix what, Bradley? The affair with Camila? Or the one with Marissa?" The color drained from Bradley's face. He turned cold, furious eyes toward Ethan. "You told her?" "I told her the truth," Ethan replied. Bradley's fists curled. "You always wanted to ruin me, since the day you fired me." "You sabotaged me," Ethan cut in. "You stole from me, and you've been stealing from Lily ever since." The room fell into a tense, suffocating silence. Finally, Bradley turned to Lily, his voice low and vicious. "He's using you to get back at me. You're too naive to see it." Something inside Lily snapped. "No," she said, her voice breaking but firm. "What I am is done. Done being ignored. Done being lied to. Done being treated like I don't matter." Bradley's eyes widened. He wasn't used to losing control of the narrative. "Lily, I almost lost our baby," she whispered, "and you didn't even show up." Bradley took a step toward her bed. Ethan moved instantly, placing himself between them. Bradley glared at him. "Move." Ethan didn't. The two men locked eyes, silent thunder sparking between them. It was Bradley who spoke first. "If you think you can take my wife from me," he hissed, "you'll regret it." Ethan's voice was ice. "She's not something to be taken." Bradley opened his mouth to retort, but the door burst open. A nurse rushed in, breathless. "Lily, there's a complication with your baby. We need you in the NICU now." Bradley spun toward her. Ethan stepped back. Lily's eyes filled with terror, and the nurse whispered, "Your son isn't breathing properly. It's evaluvis for us." The world blurred as the nurse pushed Lily's bed down the hallway toward the NICU. Bright lights streaked above her like sharp white lines, making her vision swim. Her chest tightened with every passing second. She didn't care about the pain in her abdomen or the weakness in her limbs. All she could think was, "My baby, please, please just breathe." Bradley ran beside the bed, his breath heavy, his face pale. Ethan followed close behind, calm but tense, his eyes fixed on Lily as though he could steady her with sheer presence. When they reached the NICU, the doors opened with a hiss. The room inside hummed with the soft, relentless beeping of machines. Lily's heart clenched as she looked across the room and saw a tiny incubator. A nurse stood beside it, adjusting wires. Inside was her son. So small, so fragile, his skin reddish and thin, his chest rising and falling with uneven effort. A mask covered his tiny face, and tubes ran along his arms, disappearing into the machines, keeping him alive. Lily felt her breath catch. "My baby." The nurse turned, her expression sympathetic but focused. "He's having trouble maintaining his oxygen levels. We're stabilizing him now." Bradley pressed a hand to the glass of the incubator, his jaw tight. "Is he going to make it?" The nurse glanced at him briefly. "We're doing everything we can." End quote. Ethan stood silently at Lily's side, watching the baby with an intensity that surprised even him. Something protective surged through him, unexpected but undeniable. Dr. Patel entered, her expression crisp and serious. "Lily, he's fighting, but preterm babies sometimes struggle with lung development. The next hours are critical." Lily's vision blurred with tears. "Can I touch him? Please? Just once." "You can place your hand inside the incubator," Dr. Patel said softly. "Just be gentle. It's developable." Lily's fingers trembled as she reached through the small opening. She touched the back of her baby's hand lightly, so lightly. His skin was warm, softer than she imagined, impossibly tiny. And then something happened. His fingers curled around hers. Just barely, but enough to make her knees weaken. "Hi, sweetheart," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Mommy's here. I'm right here." For a moment, his oxygen monitor steadied. The line smoothed, the beeping slowed. "He recognizes your voice," the nurse murmured. But the fragile peace shattered when Bradley suddenly snapped. "We need to talk." His voice cut through the sterile room like a blade. "Lily, we can't keep doing this. We need to figure out our marriage before." Ethan stepped in front of him instantly. "Not now." Bradley's eyes narrowed. "You don't get to decide that. You don't get to put pressure on a woman who almost died," Ethan shot back. "This is my family," Bradley barked. "Then act like it," Ethan said coldly. Lily flinched, the stress rising dangerously. The monitor beside her baby began to beep faster. Dr. Patel intervened sharply. "Both of you out, now. She cannot handle this." Bradley opened his mouth to argue, but the doctor's voice cut like steel. "Out, or I'll have security escort you." Ethan stepped back, but didn't leave. "I'm not upsetting her." Dr. Patel looked at him, then nodded. "You can stay, but keep your voice low." 100-0. Bradley stared at them both, incredulous, betrayed, furious. "You two think you can gang up on me?" he hissed. "You think she'll choose you over her husband?" Lily, holding her baby's fragile fingers, didn't even look at him. "I choose my son," she said quietly. Bradley froze. For the first time, he realized he was losing control. He backed toward the doorway, stunned. "I'll be back," he muttered. "We're not done." The doors slid shut behind him. Silence returned. Lily stared at her baby. His tiny chest rose and fell with effort. Then the monitor let out a warning tone. The nurse rushed forward. Oxygen level dropping. Ethan stepped closer to Lily, eyes sharp with worry. And Dr. Patel whispered urgently, "His lungs aren't responding. We may have to intervene immediately." The NICU room felt colder now. Machines hummed with a tense, mechanical rhythm as nurses worked swiftly around Lily's tiny son. Lily's tears blurred the lights overhead. She couldn't lose him, not after everything, not after fighting so hard. Her voice cracked as she whispered into the incubator, "Stay with me, baby. I'm right here." Ethan stood beside her, shoulders tense, expression razor-sharp with worry. He didn't touch her, but his presence anchored her in place. Dr. Patel issued orders quickly. Respiratory team on standby. Increase oxygen. Prepare for non-invasive ventilation. Fourth, night port. A nurse adjusted the tiny mask on the baby's face, her hands practiced but gentle. Then the doors hissed open again. It wasn't Bradley this time. It was worse. Camila Rhodes walked into the NICU, her designer heels silent on the polished floor, her hair curled neatly, her coat draped over her arm like she owned the place. And beside her god, Lily could barely breathe, walked Marissa. Marissa, the assistant Lily had once offered homemade muffins to, the woman she'd let into her kitchen. The woman she defended to her friends. Lily's stomach twisted with nausea. Camila's lips curved into a smug smile. "Well, isn't this tragic?" Dr. Patel immediately snapped, "This is a sterile unit. You can't be here." Marissa lifted a badge with a rehearsed smile. "We're with Mr. Hammond. He said his wife was exaggerating and causing chaos. We're here to escort him." Ethan stepped forward sharply. "You're not escorting anyone." Camila smirked. "Oh, I know who you are. Ethan Calloway. Always so self-righteous." She tilted her head. "Still bitter about losing your biggest deal to Bradley?" Ethan's jaw tightened, but he didn't take the bait. Marissa crossed her arms. Bradley said, "Lily is unstable right now. He needs support. He asked us to check on him while he talks to hospital leadership about her behavior." Lily's heart cracked open. "Behavior?" she whispered. "I almost died. My baby." Camila gave a soft, mocking pout. "Oh, sweetheart. Stress happens. Maybe if you'd taken better care of yourself." Ethan moved so fast, Lily almost didn't see it. He stepped between her and the two women, his voice dangerously calm. "You need to leave. Now." Marissa rolled her eyes. "You don't control this family." "No," Ethan said, "but I control this building and the legal team that protects it. If you take one more step toward her, I'll have hospital security escort you out and file a harassment claim." Camila's smug expression faltered. "Doctor," Patel nodded sharply, "you two are interfering with medical care. Out." Reluctantly, Camila and Marissa backed up. But as they reached the doorway, Camila paused and looked directly at Lily, her smile returning like poison. "You should know something," she said softly. "Bradley isn't coming back for you. He's already filing papers, and when he gets custody, you won't see that baby again without supervision." A bolt of pure terror shot through Lily's chest. Ethan took a step forward, fury radiating off him. "Get out." Finally, the doors closed behind them. Lily stared at the incubator, heart pounding. Custody. Supervision. Her worst nightmares wrapped around her like chains. She felt her breath slipping, her vision dimming. She pressed her palm to the incubator, voice trembling. "They're trying to take him," she whispered. "They want to take my baby." Ethan's voice was low, steady, terrifying in its certainty. "They won't. I won't let them." Lily looked at him, her tears falling freely now. "Why? Why are you helping me?" He hesitated just a second before he answered. "Because you're not the first person Bradley tried to destroy." His eyes softened. "But you will be the last." Before Lily could respond, alarms blared again. The baby's oxygen levels plummeted. Nurses rushed in. Dr. Patel shouted, "We need to intervene now." And Lily's heart shattered as a nurse grabbed her arm. "We have to take him to surgery immediately." The hallway outside the NICU became a blur of rushing nurses, wheeled equipment, and sharp instructions as Lily watched her newborn son being pushed toward the surgical wing. She tried to move, to stand, to follow him, but her body betrayed her weak from blood loss, trembling with fear. Ethan immediately caught her under the arms before she collapsed. "You can't walk yet," he said gently, lowering her into a wheelchair. A nurse rolled over. "Let them work. He's in the best hands now." Lily's heart hammered painfully, each beat pulsing with guilt. "He wasn't supposed to come this early," she whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. He wasn't ready." "You were under too much stress," Ethan said softly, his voice trembling despite his steady posture. "No one's body can handle what Bradley put you through." The name alone sent a wave of anger through her. Bradley, the man who destroyed her trust, risked her pregnancy, and now threatened her motherhood. The man who was filing papers behind her back while she lay between life and death. 2 nurses rushed by, carrying surgical supplies. Lily's breath caught. "What if something happens to him?" she whispered. "What if he doesn't?" Ethan crouched in front of her, so she had to look at him. His eyes weren't cold now, they were filled with something fierce, protective, almost painful. "Listen to me. Your son has more fight than you think. And so do you." His words hit her deeply. For the first time since the pregnancy began, she felt seen not as a burden, not as a problem to fix, but as a mother fighting with everything she had. A doctor in blue scrubs approached them. "Mrs. Hammond, they're beginning the intervention now. His oxygen saturation dropped too low. We're inserting a surfactant tube to help him breathe. It will take some time." As a twitty. "Will he survive?" Lily asked, barely breathing. The doctor didn't offer false comfort. "He's very premature. There are risks, but he's stable enough to attempt this, and that's a positive sign." She nodded slowly, refusing to let the panic swallow her again. When the doctor walked away, Ethan remained kneeling beside her, elbows resting on his thighs. "Lily," he said quietly, "I want to tell you something. It's important." She wiped her face, her voice hoarse. "What is it?" "What Camila said earlier about custody, that wasn't an empty threat." His jaw tightened. "Bradley is planning something big. He's been preparing for weeks." Lily's stomach sank. "Preparing? For what?" "For taking everything from you," Ethan said. "Not just the child. Your money, your stability, your freedom." "I don't have anything," she said bitterly. "You have more than you think," Ethan replied. "You're his wife, legally. Which means he wants things signed before the baby gets stronger and before you regain your strength." Her breath hitched. He wouldn't do that. Not now. But the look in Ethan's eyes said otherwise. "Bradley doesn't see family," he said. "He sees leverage." Lily closed her eyes, tears welling again. "Why is he doing this to me?" "Because he's afraid," Ethan answered. "Afraid of his mistakes catching up. Afraid that you'll expose him. Afraid of losing control. And to never go." At that, Lily opened her eyes. Her voice trembled. "What? Mistakes?" Ethan hesitated, then leaned closer, lowering his voice. "There's something you need to know before he makes his next move. Something I didn't want to tell you until you were stronger." He swallowed, his tone darkening. "Bradley's company is under investigation, and he's trying to pin everything on someone else." Lily's eyes widened. "Someone else? Who?" Ethan exhaled slowly. "You." Her world tilted. "No," she whispered. "That's impossible." "He forged documents with your name on them," Ethan said. "Financial transfers, authorization signatures. He's building a case that you used his position to funnel money illegally." Lily's pulse roared in her ears. "He's setting you up," Ethan finished. Step by step. Before Lily could respond, the surgical wing doors burst open and a nurse rushed out, breathless. "Mrs. Hammond, there's a change." Lily's body tensed. "A change?" she whispered. The nurse nodded, eyes wide. "Your son's heart rate just crashed." For a heartbeat, the hallway fell completely silent. Lily didn't hear the machines. She didn't hear the footsteps. All she heard was the nurse's words echoing inside her skull. His heart rate just crashed. The world tilted as if ripped open. She tried to stand, but her knees buckled instantly. Ethan caught her as she stumbled forward. "Easy," he said, voice low but urgent. "You're not steady." End quote. "I need to get to him," Lily cried, pushing against his arms. He needs." "You will," Ethan promised. "But if you collapse, you won't make it through the door." A surgeon stepped out from the operating suite, mask still on, face tight with concentration. "Mrs. Hammond, we're administering emergency measures now." His heart rate dipped dangerously low. "We're ventilating him manually and adjusting the surfactant dosage." Lily's voice cracked. Is my baby dying?" The surgeon hesitated in that terrible heavy way physicians do when the truth could shatter a spirit already breaking. "He's fighting," he said, "but he needs stability. And right now, his body is struggling to keep pace." Lily pressed a hand over her mouth, trying not to scream. Bradley chose that moment to reappear, storming down the hallway like a man inconvenienced by someone else's crisis. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Why wasn't I notified sooner?" The surgeon didn't even look at him. "Because you weren't here." Ethan stepped forward to block Bradley's approach. "Leave her alone," he said sharply. "She doesn't need you adding stress." Bradley glared at him. "You think this is your moment to swoop in and play hero? She's my wife, not yours." Lily turned, her face streaked with tears. "Stop it," she whispered. "Stop fighting." "I can't." Her voice cracked. "Not right now." End quote. Bradley's expression softened artificially, walking toward her with a wide, overly gentle step. "Honey, listen. Everything's going to be fine. Our son is strong, and I'm here now." Lily stared at him, exhaustion pulling her features down. "You weren't here when it mattered." Bradley stiffened. Ethan looked away, jaw flexing. But the surgeon cut in abruptly. "Mrs. Hammond, we need your consent to proceed with invasive ventilation." "Yes," Lily said immediately. Bradley stepped in. "Hold on, I want to see the paperwork. We're not making decisions without clarity. We don't have time for debates," the surgeon snapped. "The baby doesn't have minutes to waste." Bradley froze, momentarily thrown off by someone refusing to treat him like a decision-maker. Lily's hands trembled violently. Ethan noticed and moved behind her wheelchair, steadying her shoulders without a word. She whispered, "Do it. Save my son." The surgeon nodded and disappeared into the room. Lily held her breath as the doors swung closed again. She felt weightless, terrified, hollowed out. Bradley exhaled sharply. "I need to call someone from the legal team, just to protect us." "You know hospitals can." "No," Lily said without looking at him. "We're not calling anyone." Bradley stared at her, stunned. "You're making emotional decisions." "My child is on an operating table," she whispered. "Everything is emotional." Bradley scoffed. "Lily, you're clearly not thinking straight." Ethan snapped his head up. "Back off." "Or what?" Bradley growled. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his voice to a dangerous calm. "Or I'll make sure the next person the doctors treat is you." Bradley's eyes widened. Before he could respond, the operating room alarm sounded again. A nurse burst through the doors, face pale. "Mrs. Hammond, your son's heart stopped. We're performing compressions." Lily's lungs collapsed around her grief. The nurse continued, "You need to prepare yourself." He might not respond. The world seemed to tilt sideways as the nurse's words sliced through the hallway. His heart stopped. "We're performing compressions." Lily felt her soul leave her body. Her hands flew to her mouth, muffling a strangled sound that barely escaped her. It wasn't a cry, it was something deeper, older, primal. The sound a mother makes when her child slips between life and death. Her body shook uncontrollably. "Please, please no," she whispered, as if begging fate itself. Ethan immediately moved in front of her wheelchair, dropping to one knee. "Lily, look at me." She couldn't. Her vision blurred with tears she didn't even feel falling. "Lily," he said more firmly, lightly gripping the side of her wheelchair so she couldn't look away. "Your son is fighting. You can't give up before he does." She blinked through the tears, finally meeting his eyes. There was nothing soft in Ethan's gaze, now only fire, determination, and something frighteningly protective. Bradley paced at the end of the hallway, rubbing his temples. This is why I said she shouldn't be working so much." She stressed the baby out. Lily shot him a hollow stare. "Don't you dare blame me." Bradley raised his hands. "I'm just saying." "You weren't there," she whispered. "You weren't there when he stopped breathing the first time. You weren't there when I collapsed. You weren't there when I cried for help." Bradley's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. A doctor rushed out of the operating room. Lily held her breath until her ribs ached. "We got a pulse," the doctor said. "It's faint, but it's there." Lily sobbed with relief, leaning forward as if her body were collapsing inward. Ethan closed his eyes briefly, unclenching his fists. "But he's not stable," the doctor continued. "We're starting full ventilation. It's a long road ahead." "Thupo. Thupo." Lily nodded frantically. "Do whatever you have to. Just please." "We will," the doctor promised, then disappeared back inside. The hall emptied slowly, leaving only the three of them, Lily trembling in her wheelchair, Ethan steady but simmering with anger, and Bradley frowning like a man whose inconvenience had grown too large. Minutes passed. Then Bradley broke the silence. "Lily," he said, voice shifting into that familiar condescending tone she knew too well. We need to talk about next steps. About custody. About the investigation. Ethan's head whipped toward him. What investigation? Bradley smirked. She didn't tell you? The financial discrepancies tied to her hospital records? The missing funds? The forged authorization? Lily shook violently. You forged those papers, Ethan told me. Bradley laughed coldly. Of course he did. He's setting you up, Lily. He always hated me. You're just another pawn in his little revenge game. I saw the documents, Ethan said, voice dangerously calm. Your signature is inconsistent in every one of them. Bradley's jaw clenched. You have no proof. I do, Ethan replied. And soon, so will the authorities. Lily stared at Bradley, her heart pounding. Why are you doing this? She whispered through cracked lips. Why are you trying to take everything from me? Bradley's mask slipped. For leverage, he said quietly. Divorcing you is cleaner if I'm the victim. The words punched her harder than any physical blow. Ethan stepped forward. You're done. You hear me? You're finished. Bradley scoffed. You think you'll win? You think she'll win? She's weak. Look at her. Lily's trembling hands slowly curled around the sides of her wheelchair. Weak? Weak? She lifted her head. Her face was pale, swollen from crying, exhausted, but something hardened inside her, crystallizing into resolve. I'm not weak, she whispered. Not anymore. Bradley took a step back, startled by the steel in her voice. Before either man could speak again, the surgeon reappeared, urgent, breathless. Mrs. Hammond, he said. Your son? He responded to the ventilation. Lily's lungs filled with air for the first time in hours. But, the surgeon added, he's still very fragile, and he needs his mother in a quiet environment, no stress, no conflict. He glanced at Bradley, then Ethan, then back at Lily. Choose who stays. Lily froze. Both men watched her, and she finally understood. This wasn't just a moment. It was a turning point, and she opened her mouth, ready to choose. For a moment, time didn't move. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, but the world around Lily went silent. She looked from Bradley, stiff, furious, waiting to control the narrative again, to Ethan, who stood calm but alert, his eyes fixed on her like she was the only person in the room who mattered. Her son needed peace. She needed strength. And Bradley? Bradley brought chaos with every breath he took. Lily swallowed, her throat raw. I choose. Bradley stepped forward quickly, as if he already knew the answer. Lily, don't be ridiculous. I'm your husband. I should be here. He's my son. If now for. Something cold and sharp cut through Lily's fear. He's not your possession, she said quietly. Bradley froze. She turned to the surgeon. Ethan stays. Bradley leaves. The words echoed in the hallway. Bradley's mouth fell open. What? Lily steadied her trembling hands. You heard me. Bradley laughed loud, incredulous, ugly. You're making choices in the middle of a breakdown. You're not in your right mind. No, Lily whispered. For the first time in years, I am. Oliver Sev. Ethan didn't smile or gloat. He simply placed one steadying hand on the back of her wheelchair, silently promising she wouldn't face any of this alone. The surgeon nodded. Mr. Hammond, you'll need to step outside. Bradley pointed angrily at Lily. You'll regret this. When the custody hearing starts, they'll see how unstable you. Ethan's voice cut through him like a blade. The only unstable person here is the man screaming in a NICU hallway. A Daveringer. Bradley lunged toward him, but two nurses rushed forward, stopping him before he got close. Sir, that's enough, one warned. I'm her husband, Bradley yelled. And she asked you to leave, the nurse replied calmly. Respect the patient's wishes. The security guard arrived then, summoned quietly by Dr. Patel earlier. Without a word, he guided Bradley backward. Bradley glared at Lily, betrayal twisting his features. This isn't over. Lily met his stare without flinching. You're right, she said softly. It's not. Bradley stormed down the hallway, shoving open the door so hard it rattled. When he disappeared, Lily felt something loosen inside her chest, like a cord that had been strangling her for years finally snapped. Ethan leaned closer. Are you okay? Her voice came out as a whisper. I think I will be. The surgeon reappeared a moment later. Mrs. Hammond, your baby is stable for now. You can see him again, but only with one person present. No stress, no loud talking. Lily nodded. I understand. Ethan helped roll her wheelchair toward the operating room recovery bay. The lights dimmed as they entered, and the soft hum of machines filled the quiet. There he was. Her son, tiny, fragile, fighting harder than anyone she had ever known. She reached into the incubator again, her fingertip brushing the back of his hand. Mommy's here, she whispered. And I'm not going anywhere. It's $1,000. Ethan stood behind her in silence, giving her space. And yet she felt him there, like a shield at her back. Minutes slipped by, her son's breathing steadied, his heart rate climbed by the tiniest margin. Lily exhaled shakily. He's fighting, she murmured. He takes after you, Ethan said. She turned slightly, meeting his eyes. Something unspoken hung between them, something warm, something terrifying, something she didn't yet have the strength to name. But before she could respond, the door slowly opened again. A different nurse stepped inside, holding a clipboard. Mrs. Hammond? She said carefully. There's a detective downstairs asking to speak with you. Lily stiffened. A detective? She whispered. Ethan's expression darkened instantly. About what? The nurse took a breath. He said it's regarding financial fraud, connected to your name. Lily's blood ran cold. Bradley had officially made his move. For a few seconds, Lily couldn't breathe. The NICU hum, the soft beeping of machines, even the quiet warmth of her baby's tiny hand, all of it faded into a distant echo. A detective. Fraud. Her name? The nightmare Bradley had been constructing in the shadows was no longer theoretical. It had arrived. And it had teeth. Ethan immediately stepped closer, steady and protective. You're not talking to anyone alone, he said, kneeling beside her wheelchair. Not in your condition. Not while he's doing this. Lily swallowed hard, her heart pounding so loudly she could barely hear her own voice. If I don't go, it'll look worse. It'll look worse, Ethan agreed calmly. If you walk into a trap without representation. Representation, lawyers, court, evidence. The words slammed into her, suffocating. She had spent months feeling fragile, disposable, powerless. Now Bradley wanted her arrested too? A fresh wave of fear rippled through her. What if they take me away, she whispered. What happens to my son? Ethan leaned forward, eyes burning with certainty. No one is taking you, not while I'm here. The firmness in his voice steadied her more than she expected. She nodded slowly. A nurse brought the wheelchair closer to the door, preparing to escort Lily to a private consultation room. Ethan walked beside her, tall and silent, his presence radiating control. Downstairs, the detective waited, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a badge clipped neatly to his belt. His demeanor wasn't hostile. If anything, he looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Hammond, he said gently, I know this is a difficult time. I'm sorry to approach you here, but your name came up in a financial review with Hammond Technology. Lily's voice trembled. What exactly does that mean? The detective glanced at Ethan, who didn't move an inch, and then back at her. We've received an anonymous tip implicating you in unauthorized financial transfers. More than $80,000. Lily gasped softly. 80,000? Bradley hadn't set a trap, he'd built a noose. I didn't do anything, she said, her voice thin but sure. I work in a hospital. I don't even have access to his accounts. That's what didn't sit right with me, the detective said. The signature on the authorizations didn't look consistent. I asked for handwritten samples. And, well, he opened a folder and showed her copies of the forged forms. Even in her shaken state, Lily could see the differences. The slanted letters, the unnatural curves, the slight shake in the lines. That wasn't her handwriting, it was someone copying it. Bradley or Marissa. The detective continued. Normally, we'd begin with a home visit or formal interview, but given your medical situation, I chose to come here first. Ethan stepped forward slightly. Detective, with all due respect, someone is framing her. The detective nodded. I suspected that, especially after learning where Mr. Hammond has been this morning. Lily's brows furrowed. Where? The detective hesitated. He filed a request for full emergency custody. Lily felt the floor tilt. Emergency? Custody? He nodded slowly. He claims you're mentally unstable, financially reckless, and unfit for care. The kind of claim that usually gets dismissed, unless paired with financial fraud. Lily's stomach twisted into knots. Bradley wasn't just cruel. He was strategic, calculated, deadly. The detective lowered his voice. Mrs. Hammond, based on what I've seen, I don't think you're guilty, but you need legal protection. Immediately. Ethan placed a hand on the back of her wheelchair. I'll handle it. I have a legal team ready. The detective nodded. Good, you'll need them, because Mr. Hammond isn't backing down. Lily's hands shook. Her baby was fighting to breathe upstairs. Her marriage was in ruins. Now the law itself was being weaponized against her. I can't lose my son, she whispered, her voice cracking. I won't let him take my child. Ethan crouched beside her, eyes steady, unwavering. Then we fight him, and we win. The detective closed the folder. One more thing, he said quietly. Mr. Hammond isn't acting alone. Lily blinked. What? The detective hesitated. Someone else filed a companion statement backing his claims. Who? Lily whispered. Ethan's expression sharpened. The detective exhaled. Your husband's assistant, Marissa Green. For several long seconds, Lily couldn't speak. Marissa Green, the woman she had welcomed into her home, offered leftovers to, trusted with her husband's career, now signing documents declaring Lily unfit to be a mother. Rage flooded through her slowly, not a flash of fire but a spreading burn, steady and consuming. She lied for him, Lily whispered shakily. She helped him set me up. The detective nodded. Her statement claims you've had emotional outbursts at work, that you threatened Bradley, that you showed signs of postpartum instability even before the birth. That's impossible, Lily said, breath trembling. I was working double shifts. My supervisors trusted me. I know, the detective said gently. I spoke to one of your colleagues before coming up. They described you as responsible, quiet, professional. He paused. The accusations don't match who they believe you are. Lily looked down at her trembling hands. But that won't matter if Bradley has enough forged evidence. Her voice cracked. He wants to erase me. Completely. Ethan's voice turned to steel. And he thinks he can. That's why he moved fast before she had time to recover, before she had legal help, before the baby stabilizes. The detective nodded. This was planned, coordinated, and very deliberate. Lily's vision swam. Her baby was fighting in the NICU upstairs, and meanwhile, the man who vowed to protect her was orchestrating the destruction of her entire life. Ethan pressed a hand gently onto the wheelchair. We need to pull every piece of leverage before he files anything else. I'll get my legal team. They specialize in corporate fraud. They'll tear the forged documents apart. And Bradley? Lily whispered. What about him? Oh, he's already losing ground, Ethan said darkly. And we're about to take the rest. Just then, the elevator doors opened. Bradley stepped out, expensive coat on, tie loosened, entitlement dripping off him. He spotted the detective and smirked. You must be Detective Lowell. I appreciate you taking my concerns seriously. My wife, well, she's fragile, emotional, and I believe she made mistakes she isn't ready to admit. The detective's expression hardened. Mr. Hammond, I'd advise you not to speak on her mental state without medical evaluation. Bradley laughed lightly. Look, I know you have to be formal, but when you see the evidence— There is no evidence, Lily whispered. Bradley turned toward her, eyebrows raised. What was that, darling? She lifted her head slowly. There was nothing fragile in her eyes now. Nothing soft. Nothing afraid. I said, she repeated, there is no evidence, because you forged it. Bradley's smile faltered. Excuse me? Ethan stepped forward calmly. We have your forged signatures. We have timestamps. We have documents misaligned with her hospital hours. The detective crossed his arms. And we have reason to believe Marissa Green supplied false statements. Bradley's composure cracked. Panic flickered beneath the surface. But he covered it with arrogance. You can't prove anything. Oh, Ethan said softly, but we can. Bradley scoffed. You're just doing this because you want her. Ethan didn't blink. I'm doing this because she deserves justice, and because she almost died while you were drinking champagne at the plaza. Bradley froze. You can't say that. Yes, I can, Ethan said, because I own part of that building, and I have surveillance. The blood drained from Bradley's face. Lily watched, breath uneven, as the first true fear crept into her husband's eyes. Detective Lowell spoke firmly. Mr. Hammond, I suggest you remain available. We'll need formal statements from all parties. Bradley opened his mouth to argue, but the detective turned away, signaling the conversation was over. Ethan leaned close to Lily. This is where everything starts turning. You're not alone anymore. End quote. Lily closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks, this time not from fear, but from the smallest flicker of hope. But then, a nurse burst from the elevator. Mrs. Hammond, come quickly. Your son? Lily's heart dropped. What happened? She begged. The nurse swallowed. He just opened his eyes, but he's asking for you. The moment Lily entered the NICU recovery room, she felt the world shift. The lights were dim, the machines steady, and her son, her tiny, impossible miracle, rested beneath a soft glow. His little chest rose and fell more regularly now, his breathing supported but stable. She could hear it. She could feel it. Life, fragile, but fighting. A nurse gently lifted him and placed him into Lily's arms for the very first time. Her breath caught. She stared down at the child she had, almost lost the child she fought for through betrayal, fear, and near death. He blinked up at her, eyes barely open, but seeking her face as if he already knew her. Hi, my love, she whispered, tears dropping silently onto his blanket. Mommy's here. And nobody is ever taking you from me. Ethan stood near the doorway, giving her space but unable to hide the warmth in his gaze. His expression softened in a way that made Lily's heart ache, not with grief this time, but with a slow, blooming hope she had not expected to feel again. The nurse cleared her throat softly. He responds best to your heartbeat, she told Lily. He calms when you speak. He knows you. Lily smiled through her tears, rocking her son gently. I know him too. Minutes passed in a hush, sacred and still. Then the door opened. Detective Lowell stepped in, holding a folder. Mrs. Hammond, I thought you should hear this directly. His tone shifted surer now. We reviewed the building footage. We spoke to hotel security. And we obtained digital records from Mr. Hammond's assistant's devices. Lily stiffened slightly, and he exhaled. The fraud documents were forged, completely. We found the originals with Marissa Green's handwriting, not yours. Lily's entire body sagged with relief. Detective Lowell continued, Mr. Hammond has been taken in for questioning. There's a strong likelihood he'll face charges for financial crimes, obstruction, and attempted custodial interference. Lily's heart steadied. So, he can't hurt my son? The detective shook his head. No, not anymore. After he left, the room fell quiet again. Ethan moved closer, not intrusive, but present. It's over, he said softly. You're free. Lily looked down at her baby. For the first time in months, the air around her didn't feel heavy. Her chest didn't feel tight. She wasn't surviving anymore. She was living. Thank you, she whispered. Ethan shook his head. Don't thank me. You did the hard part. You survived him. Doesn't. She looked up at him then, truly looked. He wasn't the polished billionaire from the articles Bradley used to brag about competing with. He wasn't the man who found her in the subway and carried her through chaos. He was something else entirely. Steady, patient, deeply kind. Ethan, she murmured. He stepped beside her gently, carefully. Yes? Her voice trembled with something new, something tender. Do you want to hold him? Ethan's breath caught. Are you sure? She nodded. He sat beside her, and for the first time, she placed her son into his arms. Ethan held the baby with a reverence that melted every old scar inside her. He's strong, Ethan whispered, just like his mother. Lily rested her head lightly on Ethan's shoulder, exhausted but finally safe. Her son slept between them, tiny but fierce. Outside the window, morning light spilled over Manhattan, the city that had nearly broken her, now welcoming her into a new beginning. No more fear. No more manipulation. No more surviving a man who thrived on destroying others. She kissed her son's forehead, then whispered with a steady, quiet power, We're free now. Ethan's hand brushed hers, a promise without words. And for the first time, Lily believed the future could be beautiful. The life she was meant to have had finally begun. So, that's how our story ends, my wonderful friends. You're still here, right? If you're watching or listening until this very moment, maybe something in Lily's journey touched your heart in a way words can't fully describe. And if it did, then let's breathe together for a second and look at what this story is really teaching us. Life will break you sometimes. People you trust may lie, betray, or try to control your path. But as Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Lily couldn't control Bradley's cruelty, but she did control how she rose after the fall. That's the heart of healing. That's the heart of stoicism. Choosing your response, even when life feels impossible. Maybe you've been through heartbreak. Maybe you've carried your pain quietly, just like Lily did. Let her story remind you that your worth doesn't fade because someone fails to see it. Your strength doesn't disappear because someone tries to silence it. You can lose almost everything and still rebuild stronger, wiser, freer. If this story touched you, even just a little, do me one favor. Like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel so we can keep walking through these stories together. Because you're not alone. Not here.